They guffawed at human weakness, mocking our simplicity, until the beasts we long ago forged an unbreakable bond with showed them the meaning of primal fear. It was in a stinking dive on some forgotten space rock. Altair's glum face was buried in his claws. His scaled knuckles knocked on the sticky bar counter, and the bartender slid him a glowing blue drink. Altair coiled the glass in his scaled claw as a shadow darkened his trembling stool. "Commander Altair, sir, what happened?" Tharok said, his junior lieutenant. I spat in the humans' faces, told them we were there to plunder that planet of primitives. They didn't recoil or cower or tremble, just smiled at me, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Altair squeezed the glass, cracking it. "That trade negotiation was just a formality. Earth barely has fusion power. They still fight each other with chemical explosives. A single Draconis frigate could glass that planet." "That's exactly what I told that feeble-looking human ambassador, Anthony Cooper, that we could melt mountains with a single lance. He didn't tremble, didn't flinch, barely blinked." Didn't he realize the power of the Draconis Empire? With our weapons, we could kill every human without a single Draconis getting a scratch. He started babbling nonsense about prehistoric humans and how they domesticated another species tens of thousands of years ago, how they befriended a massive, vicious predator they called wolves, about how over millennia they became inseparable partners that co-evolved to transform one another. I didn't understand. "What drivel is this, sir? Why are you upset about nonsensical stories of ancient humans and their war dogs?" I laughed at the ridiculous tale and told Cooper to submit, or his entire race would perish under our lances. That's when he smiled at me, a wide human smile, full of teeth sharper than I expected. He uttered a single word: Fenris. At first nothing happened, but then the shadows moved in the corners behind him. Huge hulking shapes materialized out of the darkness on 4 legs, 7 feet tall at the shoulder, fangs the size of cleavers, muscles rippling beneath shaggy black fur matted with blood. A dozen pairs of glowing silver eyes locked onto me. They weren't just monsters. They were something more, something primal and ancient and vicious beyond reason. I felt something I've never experienced before, Tharok. True fear. Those massive warhounds didn't just intimidate us, they terrified us to the core. The human ambassador just smiled as his pack of giant wolves started circling, licking their jowls. That's when I realized we gravely underestimated humans. Our lives depended on negotiating a real peace, and fast. "What is that thing?" Tharok recoiled, his scales standing on end. "That's what the human called a Fenris, a genetically engineered apex predator, forged from the DNA of Earth's most fearsome beasts," Altair shuddered. "Wolves, lions, bears, and something called mastiffs, all melded together. And there were a dozen of them, Tharok. A dozen!" "By the stars. And you said they were invisible at first. How is that possible?" "Some human technology, no doubt. But that was just the beginning. Cooper said those monsters stood 7 feet high at the shoulder. Their paws were as wide as dinner plates, with claws like meat hooks. And the fangs... I'll see those dagger-like teeth in my nightmares." Tharok took a long swig of his drink, trying to calm his nerves. What did the human do with them? Were they just for show? "If only..." Altair shook his head. He said the Fenris were psychically bonded to their human handlers from birth, a perfect melding of instinct and intelligence. I could see it in their eyes, Tharok, the way they stared at us, sizing us up like prey. There was a keen predatory focus there that chilled me to my core. Psychic beasts, are they telepaths too? In a way. Cooper boasted that with a single mental command, a Fenris could turn invisible, sprint at supersonic speeds, and strike with the force of a meteorite, that they could rip the turrets clean off our tanks. And he claimed Earth had thousands of them, each one mentally linked to an elite soldier. Tharok let out a low whistle. Thousands of 7-foot-tall invisible warbeasts that can outrun missiles and hit like orbital bombardments. That's terrifying. What did you do? Altair sagged in his seat, the memory of his humiliation still fresh. What could I do? I'd walked into that negotiation expecting to cow the humans into submission, but in the face of that, my intimidation tactics seemed laughable, pathetic. I had no choice but to start the talks over as Cooper suggested, to treat them as equals. I know, Altair cut him off, not wanting to dwell on the grim implications. Believe me, I know. We underestimated the humans. Badly. And something tells me we've only scratched the surface of what they're truly capable of. We need to tread very, very carefully from here on out. Tharok nodded, downing the rest of his drink in one gulp. The two Draconis sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of this revelation heavy on their shoulders. The galaxy, it seemed, had just become a far more dangerous and unpredictable place, and humanity, once dismissed as a weak and primitive species, now loomed as a force to be reckoned with, or even feared. Tharok leaned forward, his eyes wide. How did the humans keep those Fenris beasts a secret for so long? Something that powerful, you'd think we would have caught wind of it. Altair took another long pull from his drink, savouring the burn. Cooper said the Fenris were part of a highly classified military project. Billions poured into R&D for each one. They kept them hidden away in remote, underground training facilities. Only a handful of people even knew they existed. Until they decided to reveal them to you. Exactly. Cooper's words stuck with me. He said, we humans learned long ago to keep our greatest strengths hidden until the moment is right to reveal them. That's when I realized we'd been playing chess while the humans were playing something else entirely. Tharok shook his head in disbelief. And then what happened? Cooper invited me to tour one of their Fenris training bases. A show of good faith, he called it. Altair snorted. More like a show of force. But I was curious, so I agreed. Intimidating or inspiring, take your pick. Altair stared into his drink, lost in the memory. I saw dozens of Fenris, each paired with a human handler. They worked together seamlessly, the humans directing them with just their thoughts. No words, no gestures, just that psychic link. Tharok let out a low whistle. That's some advanced stuff. How'd they get so good? Training. Constant, relentless training. Cooper said each pair drilled non-stop to hone their skills. The Fenris focused on close-quarters combat, while the humans worked on tactics and strategy, learning how to psionically command their partner in battle. Sounds intense. Altair barked a laugh. You have no idea. Cooper even had the gall to ask if I wanted to spar with one of the Fenris. What's the matter? He said. Scared of a big dog? Tharok's eyes bugged out. He wanted you to fight one? Is he insane? I thought so at first, but then I realized it was a calculated move, a way to show off the Fenris's abilities in a controlled setting, to really drive home how outmatched we were. So what did you do? I politely declined, told him I'd seen more than enough to gain a healthy respect for what the Fenris could do. And you know what Cooper said? He chuckled and told me, smart choice, like he knew I didn't stand a chance. Tharok shook his head again, marveling at the sheer audacity. Humans, they're something else. Are you telling me? Altair polished off his drink and signaled for another. We thought we had them figured out, thought we could just roll in and take what we wanted, but we humans, we're full of surprises. Tharok leaned forward, enthralled by Altair's account. So what happened with the trade negotiations after they revealed the Fenris? Altair let out a rueful laugh, shaking his head. The Draconis Empire found itself at a disadvantage, for the first time in history. Once the humans knew their Fenris had us on the back foot, Cooper became a ruthless negotiator. He leveraged Earth's position of strength to extract concession after concession, exclusive trading rights to their rare Earth elements, strict limits on our military ships in their solar system, even a ban on all our weapons of mass destruction. Tharok's jaw dropped. And you agreed to all that? Altair nodded grimly. I had little choice. The alternative was risking Earth deploying the Fenris defensively. Can you imagine? Thousands of those monsters unleashed against us. He shuddered at the thought. What about taking the resources by force? Surely our military... Unthinkable, Altair cut him off. Any incursion would be met with those Fenris warriors. We'd be torn to shreds before we even made planetfall. Tharok sat back, stunned. So we just gave in, let them dictate terms? We did. Altair's voice was heavy with resignation. Cooper shook my hand at the signing, said something that stuck with me. You know, when we first encountered your people, you looked at us like we were primitive, ripe for exploitation. But we humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Perhaps it's time the galaxy revised its opinion of Earth. Altair met Tharok's gaze, his eyes haunted. I could only nod, because he was right. We badly underestimated human cunning, their foresight. We thought them weak, but their strength was hidden, waiting to be revealed at the perfect moment. He took a long, slow breath. The galaxy will never be the same, Tharok. The balance of power has shifted, and we were caught flat-footed. Tharok digested this in silence, the weight of Altair's words sinking in. He had so many more questions, but one rose to the surface, burning in his mind. So, what do we do now? How do we proceed, knowing what we know about Earth's capabilities? Altair stared into his empty glass, as if searching for answers in its depths. Carefully, Lieutenant. Very, very carefully. We treat humanity as an equal, because like it or not, that is what they've become. His gaze hardened, a glint of determination sparking in his eyes, and we learn from this, adapt our strategies, re-evaluate our assumptions. The Draconis Empire has grown complacent, arrogant in our superiority. Earth has shown us the folly of that mindset. So we change, Tharok said slowly, understanding dawning. We evolve, or we risk being left behind. Exactly. Altair signaled for another round of drinks, his posture straightening. This is a new era, Tharok, a new galactic order, and the Draconis must find its place in it, even if that place looks different than what we've always imagined. Tharok nodded, a newfound respect for his commander blooming in his chest. It took strength to admit when one was wrong, to confront uncomfortable truths head-on. And though the road ahead looked uncertain, he knew. Tharok shook his head in disbelief, marveling at the humans' long game strategy. They played us all for fools, lulling the galaxy into underestimating them while they quietly developed the perfect secret weapon. Have the Fenris seen actual combat since the negotiations? Tharok asked, leaning forward. They have. Altair's eyes grew distant, recalling the events. A few months after the treaty, a rogue Draconis warlord named Zektar became displeased with the terms. He launched an unsanctioned attack on a human colony world. I remember hearing about that, Tharok said. Zektar's fleet bombarded the colony from orbit, while hundreds of his shock troops landed to seize control on the ground. Ignoring direct orders to stand down, Altair confirmed. Earth's response was swift and decisive. They deployed a single special forces team, comprised of just 6 Fenris and their handlers. Tharok's eyes widened. Only 6, against Zektar's entire invasion force. Altair's voice filled with a mix of horror and reverence. In a matter of hours, that team decimated Zektar's troops. I saw the helmet cam footage. Those Fenris moved like blurs, tearing through our soldiers with devastating speed and savagery. By the stars, Tharok breathed, and Zektar himself? Cornered by a Fenris named Aemon, Altair said quietly, ripped limb from limb. What about in space? Tharok finally asked. Zektar's warships had to have put up more of a fight. Altair shook his head. The humans unveiled powerful new energy weapons, and their ships, they were equipped with cloaking technology, reverse-engineered from studying the Fenris's natural camouflage abilities. So Zektar's forces were completely routed, on the ground and in space. Utterly, Altair confirmed. It sent an unmistakable message to the galaxy that the Fenris were no mere display of intimidation. They are Earth's greatest weapon, one they will not hesitate to deploy in their defense. Tharok sat back, processing the implications. I almost feel sorry for Zektar, to be torn apart by those monsters. As did his troops, to be slaughtered so efficiently by so few. Altair leaned forward, his gaze intense. That is the power of the Fenris, Tharok. the power we now must respect if we wish to maintain peace with Earth. Tharok nodded, a newfound gravity settling over him. The galaxy has truly changed. The humans have shown their teeth. And what fearsome teeth they are, Altair agreed. He signaled for another round of drinks, needing something to calm his nerves. The memory of those 6 Fenris efficiently butchering an entire invasion force still chilled him to the bone. As their glasses were refilled, Tharok voiced the question weighing on both their minds. Do you think they will be satisfied, now that they've proven their point, or will the humans become aggressive, seeking to expand their influence? Altair considered carefully before replying. I believe that as long as the treaty is honored, Earth will be content with the balance we've struck. They are not conquerors by nature. But if they were to be threatened again or betrayed, then stars help whoever is foolish enough to cross them, Altair finished grimly. The Fenris have only been unleashed once as a warning. I shudder to imagine the destruction they could wreak if humanity ever felt truly backed into a corner. They lapsed into another heavy silence, sipping their drinks and pondering the delicate new world order. It was a lot to take in, the knowledge that everything they thought they knew about Earth had been wrong. That far from being a weak, primitive species, humans possessed the cunning, foresight, and devastating weaponry to bring the galaxy's mightiest empires to their knees. Tharok finally broke the quiet, asking the question that had been nagging at him throughout Altair's tale. Tharok leaned back, shaking his head in awe. 6 Fenris tearing through an entire invasion force, they sound virtually unstoppable. Do you think their existence will make other species think twice about challenging humanity? Altair paused, considering the question. I believe so. In fact, shortly after Zektar's failed attack, Earth convened an emergency summit of the Galactic Council. The human ambassador, a woman named Eliza Novak, addressed the assembled leaders. She made a shocking revelation about the Fenris. Tharok's eyes widened. What did she say? Altair took a deep breath. Novak told us that the Fenris were actually the smallest and least physically imposing of 3 classified human military projects. Cerberus, Hydra, and Titan, Altair replied grimly. Novak didn't provide any details on their nature or capabilities. She only stated that if the Fenris represented Earth's sword, then Hydra and Titan were its shield and armor. Tharok felt a chill run down his spine. If the Fenris are just their sword, I can't even imagine what the others might be capable of. Altair nodded solemnly. None of us could, and then Novak issued a dire warning. She said that any further acts of aggression against Earth would be met with the full force of all 3 projects, that the response would be so devastating it would annihilate the offending species entirely. Tharok swallowed hard, the gravity of the threat sinking in. So if the Fenris are considered Earth's least potent option, then stars help us if we ever see what destructive power Hydra and Titan wield, Altair finished, his voice heavy with foreboding. A tense silence fell between them, the implications of Earth's revelations weighing heavily on their minds. Finally, Tharok spoke. How did the Draconis leadership react to all this? Altair sighed, his shoulders sagging. After the summit, the prevailing attitude has been one of extreme caution. We've realized that if humans were capable of creating something as formidable as the Fenris in secret, then there's no telling what other aces they might have up their sleeves, Tharok concluded, echoing Altair's earlier words. Altair nodded grimly. Exactly. The galaxy's perception of Earth has shifted dramatically. They've proven themselves to be masters of misdirection, lulling us all into a false sense of superiority while quietly amassing an arsenal of devastating weapons. Tharok shook his head in disbelief. To think we once saw them as primitives to be conquered. How arrogant we were. Indeed, Altair agreed. Humanity has taught us a harsh lesson in humility. One I suspect the Draconis and the rest of the galactic community won't soon forget. They lapsed into contemplative silence once more, each grappling with the new reality they found themselves in. A reality where Earth, once dismissed as a backwater planet, now stood as a formidable power to be reckoned with. Tharok finally broke the quiet. asking the question that had been nagging at the back of his mind. Tharok leaned back, his mind reeling from the implications of Altair's revelations. As he processed the gravity of the situation, a thought occurred to him. "Do you think the humans would ever consider sharing their Fenris technology with other species?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "As a gesture of goodwill, perhaps?" Altair scoffed, shaking his head. "Not a chance. In fact, just last week, a delegation from the Orcs consortium arrived on Earth, hoping to negotiate an exchange." Tharok's eyes widened. "The Orcs, they're one of the most powerful trading alliances in the galaxy. What did they offer?" "A veritable fortune in advanced technology and rare resources," Altair replied. "In return, they wanted Fenris breeding stock and training techniques." "And the humans refused?" Altair nodded. The human Secretary of Defense, Marcus Gray, met with the Orcs representatives. He's a grizzled veteran, not easily swayed by promises of wealth or power. "What did he say?" Gray heard out their offer, then responded with a flat no. When the Orcs pushed for an explanation, he merely smiled and said, "The Fenris aren't some commodity to be bartered or sold. They're our sworn partners, our battle brothers." Tharok leaned forward, listening intently as Altair continued. "The bond between a human and a Fenris is sacred, unbreakable," Gray told them. "It can't be replicated or mass-produced, and frankly, even if we could share the Fenris with you, we wouldn't." "Why not?" Tharok asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Altair's voice grew somber. "Because at the end of the day, the Fenris are Earth's fail-safe. Our guarantee that no matter how advanced your technology or powerful your weapons, you'll never be able to subjugate or destroy us. The Fenris are our ultimate trump card, and we're not about to let anyone else hold that ace." Tharok sat back, letting the weight of those words sink in. "So the Orcs left empty-handed?" "They had no choice," Altair confirmed. Faced with such uncompromising resolve, they withdrew their request, leaving Earth with its most valuable military asset intact and untarnished. A heavy silence fell between them as they contemplated the implications of Earth's stance. The humans, it seemed, were not only formidable, but also fiercely protective of their greatest weapon. Tharok shook his head, a mix of awe and unease settling in his gut. The galaxy really has changed, hasn't it? The balance of power, the rules of engagement, nothing will ever be the same. Altair nodded grimly, his eyes distant. "We're in uncharted territory now, Tharok. The humans have upended everything we thought we knew about warfare, about diplomacy, and something tells me they're just getting started." Tharok swallowed hard, his mind racing with the possibilities of what humanity might unleash next. If the Fenris were just the beginning, what other marvels, or horrors, might they have in store? He opened his mouth to voice his concerns, but Altair held up a hand, his expression grave. Altair paused, letting the weight of the Fenris's history sink in. Tharok nodded slowly, a newfound appreciation for the depths of human ingenuity and foresight dawning on his face. "So the Fenris project began over a century ago, as a spin-off from medical research?" Tharok asked, marveling at the twists of fate that led to such a formidable weapon. Altair nodded. "From what I've heard, yes, the humans stumbled upon a genetic goldmine and had the vision to recognize its potential. And the patience to develop it in secret for generations," Tharok added, shaking his head in awe. "To think, while we dismissed them as primitives, they were quietly creating the perfect soldiers under our very noses." "Soldiers that proved the deciding factor in our negotiations," Altair said grimly, taking another swig of his drink. "If not for the Fenris, the Draconis would have simply taken what we wanted from Earth, by force if necessary." Tharok leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "But the first Fenris couldn't bond with their handlers, you said. What changed?" Altair set down his glass, his eyes distant as he recounted the whispers. The humans unlocked the secrets of telepathic gene expression. They began selectively breeding the Fenris for psionic compatibility, generation after generation. Until they created beasts that could form unbreakable mental links with their human partners, Tharok finished, a shiver running down his spine at the implications. Exactly, Altair confirmed. The bond between Handler and Fenris starts at birth now, and only grows stronger as they train and fight together, a perfect melding of human cunning and animal ferocity. Tharok sat back, his mind reeling at the scope of the project. The sheer dedication it must have taken, the unwavering commitment to a goal that wouldn't come to fruition for a century or more. That kind of long-term thinking, that foresight, Tharok mused aloud. It's not something we Draconis are known for. We've always been a species of immediate action, seizing what we want in the here and now. Altair nodded, a rueful smile tugging at his lips. And that perhaps is why the humans have outmaneuvered us so thoroughly. They think in terms of generations, while we rarely look beyond the next conquest. A heavy silence fell between them as they contemplated this fundamental difference and how it had led to such a dramatic shift in the galactic balance of power. The humans, once dismissed as weak and short-sighted, had proven themselves to be master strategists, patiently laying the groundwork for their ascendance, while the rest of the galaxy remained oblivious. Tharok finally broke the quiet, his voice tinged with a grudging respect. It seems we have much to learn from our new human allies, about the value of patience, of playing the long game. Altair raised his glass in a sardonic toast. Indeed we do, my friend, indeed we do. Let us hope that the lessons don't prove too painful in the learning. They lapsed into contemplative silence once more, each lost in their own thoughts about the strange new world they found themselves in, a world where the rules had changed, where the old certainties no longer applied, a world where humanity, once the underdog, now held the leash of the most fearsome weapons the galaxy had ever seen. Tharok shook his head, still struggling to wrap his mind around the sheer scope of the Fenris project, the centuries of research, the countless generations of scientists and soldiers who had dedicated their lives to a goal they knew they might never see realized. Tharok leaned forward, utterly captivated by the history of the Fenris. It's incredible, he breathed, the sheer scope of the project, the decades of research and development. How did the humans keep something of that magnitude hidden for so long? Altair nodded, taking another sip of his drink. Their secrecy was as impressive as their science, but even the best-laid plans can go awry. What do you mean? Tharok asked, his brow furrowing. Altair set his glass down, his expression grave. According to my sources, the Fenris project nearly fell apart in its early stages. There was a catastrophic containment breach at one of the primary research facilities. Tharok's eyes widened. What happened? A pack of first-generation Fenris, their minds twisted by the strain of genetic enhancement, broke free from their enclosures. They rampaged through the compound, tearing apart dozens of scientists and security personnel. It looked hopeless at first. Conventional weapons barely slowed the beasts down. But then a young handler named Ethan Stark stepped up. Altair nodded. You should have. He's a legend in the Fenris program. In that moment of crisis, Stark did something no one had ever done before. He forged a psychic link with the Pax Alpha, a monster named Primus. Tharok's jaw dropped. He connected with one of those rampaging beasts? How? Through sheer force of will, Altair said, a hint of awe in his voice. Stark reached out with his mind, wrestling with Primus's rage and madness. It was a battle of wills, and Stark won. He calmed Primus, asserted dominance over the other Fenris. Incredible, Tharok whispered. That bond between Stark and Primus, it changed everything. It proved that the human-Fenris partnership was possible, that it could be the key to the project's success. Every handler-beast pair that followed was modeled after them. Tharok sat back, marveling at the implications. So Stark and Primus, they became more than just heroes, they were the template, the ideal. Altair nodded. In the Fenris program, their names are spoken with reverence. Their likenesses are etched into the walls of every training facility. Even now, every new generation of handlers and Fenris are said to be marked by the spirit of Stark and Primus. A reminder of the bond, Tharok said softly, of what defines the human-Fenris connection. Exactly, Altair agreed. That unbreakable link forged in the heart of crisis, tested by fire and blood. That's what makes the Fenris more than just weapons. That's what makes them legend. Tharok fell silent, his mind reeling with the weight of this revelation. The Fenris, he realized, were far more than humanity's trump card. They were a testament to the indomitable human spirit, to the bonds that could be forged between man and beast. A chill ran down his spine as he considered the implications, the sheer potential of a force like that unleashed upon the galaxy. He opened his mouth to ask another question, but Altair held up a hand, his expression suddenly wary. As Altair finished his tale, Tharok sat in contemplative silence for a long moment. The weight of humanity's history hung heavy in the air between them. Finally Tharok spoke, his voice low and troubled. "You know, hearing all this, it makes me wonder, the humans, they've been through so much." Tharok's brow furrowed as he grappled with the implications. They've had to fight and scrap for every shred of respect in this galaxy. And now, with the Fenris at their side, they're finally in a position of strength. Altair nodded, understanding the sentiment. The humans had indeed come a long way, from dismissed primitives to a force to be reckoned with. But Tharok wasn't finished. "But I can't help but feel like it's all come at a terrible cost." His voice was heavy with a newfound realization. Altair cocked his head, curious. "What do you mean?" Tharok sighed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his thoughts. The way they've had to harden themselves to become so ruthless and unyielding. The fact that they view the Fenris, for all the love and trust between them, as ultimately a tool of war, a failsafe, as Secretary Grey put it. He shook his head, a deep sadness etched into his features. It's tragic, in a way, that a species with so much potential, so much heart, has been reduced to this. Always on guard, always ready for the next fight, never able to fully let their walls down, lest they be taken advantage of again. Altair considered Tharok's words, a grim realization settling over him like a shroud. "You're right," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "The humans, they've won their place in the galaxy. But in doing so, they've had to sacrifice a part of themselves." The two Draconis sat in heavy silence, the weight of their shared epiphany hanging in the air between them. In that moment, they both understood the true tragedy of the human story. That in the very act of defying the galaxy's dismissal and cruelty, humanity may have lost something precious and irreplaceable. A certain innocence, a fundamental openness of spirit, now forever guarded by the snarling visage of the Fenris. The cost of respect, it seemed, was higher than any could have imagined. Tharok leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think they realize it? The humans, I mean, do they understand what they've given up in their climb to the top?" Altair considered the question, his mind racing with the implications. "I don't know," he admitted after a long moment. "Perhaps on some level they do. Perhaps that's why they cling so tightly to the Fenris, to that bond. Because it's the last remnant of their old selves, the last thread connecting them to who they used to be." Tharok nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. "And perhaps that's why they'll never let go of the Fenris, never share them with the rest of the galaxy, because to do so would be to give away that final piece of their humanity." Altair sighed, the weight of their conversation settling into his bones. The Fenris are more than just weapons to the humans. They're a symbol, a reminder of all they've endured, all they've had to become. He met Tharok's gaze, a profound understanding passing between them. In a way, the humans and the Fenris are one and the same now, both forged in the crucible of hardship, both tempered into something unbreakable. Tharok leaned back, his mind reeling with the depth of their realization. And both forever changed by the roles they've had to play, the battles they've had to fight. They lapsed into silence once more, each lost in their own thoughts about the profound tragedy they had just uncovered. The story of humanity, they now understood, was one of triumph and loss in equal measure. A species shaped by the very galaxy that had once sought to break them, now forever altered by the armor they'd had to don. Tharok finally broke the silence. his voice heavy with the weight of their epiphany. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.